Hello and welcome to a special episode from the Honest Football Podcast. I'm Craig Savage and with me is the other co-host of the Honest Football Podcast, Daniel Cody. Hello, Daniel.
Good afternoon.
Luckily, there's no Charlie Vetts for any bloopers to come out on this show. But we're here to talk about breaking news. The National League have obviously decided the outcome for their seasons. That does mean Barrow are promoted back to the Football League for the first time in 46 years. They were voted out of the Football League back then. They're now back into the Football League. So first thoughts on Barrow being promoted?
Well, I've got to say, as someone, from a selfish point of view, immediately, I'm thinking as someone trying to do the 92, that is less than ideal, to be brutally honest, because you can't get much further than that. And I thought I'd done a job when I went to Carlisle. But in terms of Barrow themselves, they've had a brilliant season. It's good to see them back. They've been building for a couple of years, actually. They're a really good club off the pitch and they deserve it over the season. They were top of the league. I know there's all this thing about games in hand and that, but as it stands, they were having a good season. So there's nothing to be said negatively. It's the same as we sort of said for the EFL. It's good to see that actually all of the leagues are starting to do the same thing. It's just a shame it didn't happen across the board, would be my only reaction to that.
So we're just going to look into the playoffs, obviously.
Yes.
Harrogate finished second, Notts County third, Yeovil fourth, Bournemouth fifth, Halifax in sixth. But then the points per game changed for seventh place because before the points per game ratio, Stockport were in seventh place. And now they've been replaced by Barnet. Obviously, you've done Barnet in your FM Load network series against me on your channel. But Barnet, who were originally finished 11th, they're now in the playoffs in seventh.
That's probably the more striking one, isn't it? To finish 11th and then end up in the playoffs. I mean, to be brutally honest, Stockport, after getting promoted last year and having such a good year, that is a massive shame for them. But the Barnet one, that's one that rankles a bit because when you get to the stage where it's 3 or 4 games in hand, how do you then predict what the results are going to be? Points per game then becomes probably a bit inefficient.
It's hard for all these teams. Obviously, you want to finish the season. You want to be there on merit rather than the points per game. Looking at the players, the picture, obviously, they have the first stage and then obviously the semi-final of the top 2 teams in the playoffs. So it looks like Yeovil versus Barnet and Bournemouth versus Halifax. That's 2 very good ties to start with.
Absolutely. I mean, Yeovil, obviously a side that came down, had quite big investment from overseas, and they're the sort of ones who will be looking to come back. They started the season quite dodgily and then had a brilliant run. So I think I predicted them to win the FA Trophy at the start of the year, actually. So I'll be interested to see how they get on. If they make it to Wembley, I obviously thought they were going to win a game there this year. So that's all I can hope. The other game, probably to less reputable clubs. Please don't hit me if you're fans of them. But Bournemouth, for us quite locally, it'd be great to see them get to the Football League.
Oh, even Barnet as well. Barnet's only in Edgware, so that's another pretty much local to where we are. Going to the bottom of the National League, Chorley were bottom at the time, and it looks like they're going to get relegated. Obviously, it wasn't in their statement from the National League that Chorley were getting relegated, but obviously they're concentrating on the 3 teams that get promoted. We'll go into the other 2 in just a second, but obviously Chorley were finished bottom. They look set to go back into the National League North. AFC Barrow and Ebbsfleet were the other 2 teams at the moment that could possibly get relegated. But it all depends on the government's guidelines for the National League North and the National League South. However, for the 2 teams that have won National League North and National League South, so in the North was Kings Lynn, who we knew predicted that they would go down straight away, considering where they were based in the country, and they pretty much smashed the league.
Am I right in saying that when the season stopped, York were top and Kings Lynn, because they had games in hand, then win the league? Which, when you say Kings Lynn were top for some time, and if they're gradually starting to creep down in terms of results, and I'm not going to pretend to be an aficionado, that's when, again, points per game becomes an issue. But you've got to say it's a fairy tale story if it occurs.
Yeah, so before it all stopped, Kings Lynn had 2 games in hand over York, but 2 points behind.
Okay, yeah.
So, and then in the National League South, Wealdstone, they are promoted to the National League. They were first to start with anyway, so they were
miles clear, weren't
they? No, they were only 3 points clear of.
But they had a game in hand as well, didn't they?
They had a game in hand, so the points obviously. Wealdstone, obviously, they were up there the last couple of seasons, so it's good for them to be promoted. Obviously, there's no relegations in National League North and South because Step 3 to 7 has been null and void. We're just going to go to the playoffs for the National Leagues North and South because we don't know if they're going to go ahead yet. They've still got the government guidelines, the guidance. If they take place, then the two other teams in the National League, FC and LC File, they will get relegated. So we move on to the National League North playoffs. The original finish at the moment was Kings Lynn, Boston United, Brackley Town, Altrincham, Chester and Spennymoor Town. Yeah. But Spennymoor miss out from the new PPG position, and that gets Gateshead's place is now in the playoffs. And obviously York were obviously first at the time. They moved down to second place. Brackley versus Gateshead. That's a long trip for Gateshead.
Didn't Charlie say that about Brackley? It's a long way to go for anyone, but the same applies to Gateshead, I would say. Yeah,
and Altrincham v Chester is quite local anyway, so that will be another very good tie. And obviously York and Boston United in the obviously top two places there. Boston could be moving into the new ground come next season, so that'll be interesting for them if they get promoted to the National League. And York as well. York will get a new stadium as well, so both these two teams could potentially move into a new stadium in the new league.
Absolutely, and I don't want to come across as biased because I am neutral to that league, but Steve McNulty is at York City, so go York.
Considering we said go York now and RIP York back about 5-6 years ago is quite a different story. All right, moving on to the National League South, it was pretty much the same as it was. So having Waterlooville second, Weymouth third, Bath City fourth, Slough, we obviously went to watch them against Hemel in the matchday vlog. Check it in the eye above. Dartford. And Dorking Wanderers, obviously you managed Dorking Wanderers in your FM series. Check that channel out, it's fantastic. Very good news for obviously Dorking. Obviously they promoted last season to National League South and they're already in the playoffs this season. So a fantastic achievement for them.
I mean, they are a club on the rise properly. I mean, this 21st year in existence, I think it was 13 promotions. It's an unbelievable story. Obviously the owner and founder is still in charge. It could be unbelievable, but from 7th, it's a tough ask.
Just looking at the playoff ties, Bath City versus Dorking and Slough v Dartford.
That's a great game.
Slough v Dartford is going to be a very interesting game. The hard thing about these playoff ties, obviously, when you see playoff ties in the Football League, obviously the crowd's up and it does get... Yeah. I feel like the National League ones and the non-league ones, they seem to be on a different level compared to the Football League ones. And it's such a shame for them to be promoted without any fans when they really need the money, as we've obviously talked about with obviously money going down the Football League. What can you expect if the playoffs take part?
I think you're absolutely right that the non-league playoffs and even League One and League Two, to be fair, will be significantly more harmed than the top tiers from not having crowds because it's so reliant on that atmosphere. It's, they're people who have come from quite often in the National League North and South from a day's work. And they're going to a playoff game, and if you're a bit tired, that buzz of the crowd is something completely different. We know it even on a Saturday and Sunday league basis. If there's 50 people there on the sideline for a big game, it makes a difference to you, doesn't it? So to not have that at non-league level is going to be such a shame. And for fans at that level as well, who are so dedicated, they're the people who miss out the most. But obviously, it's for reasons that have to be done. And I'm sure the fans would rather have them in the playoffs and not watch it than not have them in the playoffs at all. But that's the other thing, isn't it? Is there's no way for them really to watch it on TV most of the time either.
Well, exactly. That's another point I was about to raise about fans obviously going to watch it. Obviously with the players as well, where they've got to train now because obviously these teams are going to be part-time players. Obviously they're probably either going back into work or have been working throughout the pandemic. How are they going to get the time to actually train and get all the safety precautions in as well?
Yeah, I mean, the cost is a big thing. And you're right, actually, which is there's going to be a real mix even within squads of people who have had 3 months off work and are probably out of shape. We've talked about mental health before and things like that as well. And then people who are exhausted from working for 3 months in key worker settings. It's going to be a really bizarre mix. But again, we don't know for sure that the National League North and South playoffs will go ahead yet, but it looks increasingly likely that they will. But again, I'm sure the clubs would rather be involved and have the chance to go up to the National League. So we have to be positive for that sense.
One final thought, a quick prediction. If the playoffs, obviously National League playoffs will go ahead. North and South, we don't know yet. But give a quick prediction. Who do you think will go up?
So from the National League, I'm going to go very safe and say Notts County, just because I think they're possibly the club with their stature and reputation that will have more of an online following and can probably get away more with not having crowds. In the North, I don't really know a North and South the best answer because it's going to be so dependent. Like you say, Gateshead and Brackley. It's a massive trip. How do you know how teams are going to react? But I'm going to play safe with York City because Steve McNulty will lead people to glory. Did it with Tranmere, he'll do it here. And in the south, that's the hardest one for me. I want to go for. I think I'm going to make a prediction. I'm not going to go for second or third this time. The winner of Slough Dartford goes up.
Oh, very good. Very good choice.
What about you? What about you?
What about me? What about me? No, to be honest, I can either see Yeovil or Notts County going up. I really can see that.
They're safe bets, aren't they?
They're safe bets. I feel for Harrogate. It's just, and the reason why I say I feel for Harrogate because I don't know about their pitch, just because it's a 4G pitch. For the north, I generally think York or Chester. For the south, I think Slough, actually. I'm going to say Slough. I'm going to say Slough.
Well, let's hope Dartford win that game then. So
even though I predicted having Waterlooville to go up in August, but I'm going to think Slough. I was impressed with Slough against Hemel when we watched them back in December.
I forgot you went for them to go up. I mean, the other big thing I haven't mentioned, if it does occur and they're the National League North and South playoffs, is considering where we were watching Fylde just over a year ago at Wembley, that is a big turn of events. They left their manager change a bit later and possibly would have got out of trouble, but that could be a big story as well. So
they lost Danny Rose goals as well. He scored a fantastic free kick in the trophy final last season. But he obviously moved on to pastures near Oldham, but that was always going to hurt him. And that is it for today's episode on the National League's playoff situation and promotion. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe. Leave a comment in the section below if you agree with us or disagree with us. Who do you think will go up if the playoffs do happen in the National League North and South? Give us a subscribe. Follow us on Twitter @HonestFootball3, and we'll see you next time.